Happy New Year to everyone. And what we're going to be talking about is letting go of what was this past year, letting go of anything that is weighting you down from the past year, releasing whatever is weighting you down from 2025. And don't take it into 2026. You've got today to do it. Today is the day to let it go. So I'm going to run through what I have right quick is, New Year's Eve is not about a lot of pressure to change. New Year's Day is a day of resolutions. And what I say, well, there's our buddy, Brad. Good morning. Good morning. So, resolutions, what they're good for is breaking them. And so, for years, my resolution, of course, was to lose 100 pounds going into the next year. I did that many, many times. And so we make New Year's resolutions so we can break them. So what we encourage people to do is to release what hasn't worked this year, what hadn't worked, and don't carry it, don't drag it into the new year, and see what you want the new year to look like. You can create it any way you want to. You got a clean slate coming up tomorrow. We all do. So it's about releasing the past year and like I said before, we'll rush into the new year. Let's look at what didn't work and what we want to leave behind. And it's, New Year's Day shouldn't be about the pressure to change. It's permission to change. Give yourself permission to change. And what we do is we chain ourselves. I want you to get a visual of that. We chain ourselves to people, places, and things, while all the time we're screaming, let me go. I mean, we have the chain wrapped around us, we've locked the lock, and we have the key. But we're screaming about wanting other people to let us go. Guess what? Your business is to open your hand and just let go. I know it sounds easy, and it's not all that easy, and it's essential to turn loose of things that are not working. So we need to look at, what we want to change, and then to create a new reality going into the new year. So what do you need to let go of? Letting go doesn't mean that we're going to minimize the pain. There's been some hard things happen to a lot of people this year. They've, have lost loved ones. They've had illnesses themselves. They've had financial problems. You name it, problems are problems. And when we have them personally, we think they're the biggest problems in the world. Do y'all hear something? Anyway, when they're our problems, they're bigger than anybody's problems ever were. And but who's talking?
Somebody's unmuted.
Okay.
Cam will take care of it.
So we've got to figure out what do we need to let go of. Like I said, it doesn't mean to minimize the pain. It means to reflect on. Here's our friend Wendy. I'm gonna pause before, because I have a forgetter. My memory is very short. And if you ever need any beautiful candles, you contact our friend Wendy. She sent us a box, not candles, soap. Soap. She sent us a box like this of soap. Well, what I made up is it was little squares of soap, and one of these days we were going to get around to opening it and dividing it up among all of us. Well, the day after Christmas, I opened that box, and I'll tell you, I've got cold chills. Each bar of soap is a work of art. I've never seen anything like it ever in my born days. So if y'all want beautiful soap as gifts or for yourself, see our friend Wendy. That's your commercial, Wendy, and thank you. It's gorgeous. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I don't know how you did it. She's an artist, folks. Okay, get back to this. I do have ADD, but that's all right. All right, here we go. So, when we want to reflect on is what have those lessons taught us? If we haven't learned anything from the hard things we've gone through, guess what? We get to repeat them. We keep get to repeat them until we learn what we need to know about the lesson. It may not look just exactly the way it was before, but somewhere along the line, it's going to come back up, and you're going to have the same scenario, the same problem, and you get to practice letting go again. So, what do we need to let go of? The number one thing on my list is old shame. If you're carrying around old shame from the past, if you're carrying around unresolved conflict from your childhood, from your adolescence, your young adult life, any resentments, any of that, if you're still carrying that around, that childhood baggage, that's what you need to let go of. One of the things that I want to give us a commercial here is that's what the intensive was designed for, is to help people let go of the past things that were not working for them. And when you get that, when you can let go of those things in the past, that I will tell you, if something happened to you in your childhood, you have zero responsibility in that. Zero. You did not create that. It was given to you. Now, in your adult life, it's your responsibility whether you want to continue to carry around that family baggage or not. So the intensive was designed to help people release those barriers, those that I always envision these big old balls of, ball and chain that we're dragging around. And that's what you get to release in the intensive. And you might want to look at signing up for one. And some people do more than one because sometimes we have more than one thing to let go of. Okay, so old shame. That has no, you've wore it out. It has no worth or value in our present day life. And then number two is any regrets of the past. There's our friend Kim. Any regrets, any of those, if only I'd done this, if only I'd done that. Y'all ever say, if only, or I wished I had have, if I could have, And what I want to say is, what that is, that leaves us into the, I should, I could, I should have, I could have, should, would, could. But you didn't. You didn't do whatever you needed to do in 2025. So leave in 2025 what you didn't get accomplished or any goal, and don't regret all of that. Leave it. Give it a good letting alone. Put it in God's hands and move on to 2026, and be very selective in what you drag into the new year. And you've got today to clean up 2025. Okay, number three is what do we need to let go of? Any relationship that has changed or ended. People are put, if I believe this, beyond any shadow of a doubt. People, and I believe this is a God deal, I believe God puts people in our lives at a time that we need them. Maybe they need us. They're put into our lives so we can learn from them about ourselves. Not that we learn about them, it's about learning how we show up with other people. So that's why people are put in our lives, is for our lessons about how we treat people, how we treat our family members, church people, go down the list. And so there are relationships that are short lived. Somebody will be put in your life, and you may be really close for a while, and then for whatever reason, they're moved out of your life. You go your separate ways. And a lot of times, there's a grief with that relationship. And so it's about grieving it and letting it go. And look at what did you contribute to that. I'll tell you, a person cannot have conflict by themselves. Of course, they can have internal conflict with themselves. They can, that inner dialogue, da 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 da, back and forth. But I'm talking about within relationships. If you have, and this is why I love the 12 steps. We have a planned program of action, by the way, folks. It's in the New Testament. For those that are listening that don't know about the 12 steps, you can look in James and Ephesians, and, basically it's the 12 steps. And because it's about how God directed us to live life on life's terms. So if you are a 12-stepper, what you get to do is to, in those relationships that have changed or ended, do a good look at it and see your part. That's doing a quick 4-step. Look at your part. Tell it to your sponsor. See what character defect of yours came up in that relationship. Is in every conflict, whether we like it or not, we play a role in it in our adult life. We play a role in it. So, 6 and 7, you get to see what that, or 6, you get to see what that character defect was that came up in that relationship. And for most of us, it's some kind of resentment, a resentment. And a resentment is all it is to replay something over and over and over and over in our minds. Somebody did us wrong, and we replay it over and over and over. And for those of us in 12-step programs, we don't live a perfect life, but we must keep our side of the sidewalk swept clean, because those are the things. It wasn't what other people did to us, it's what we did to ourselves or to other people. And if we don't clean up our side of the sidewalk, we will go back to the food, we will go back to the drugs and alcohol, or we will switch to an entirely different addiction. Addiction is addiction is addiction. We'll find something to ease that pain. And it is something that we have created between our two ears. So if you're carrying around a resentment, I love some of the smiles on your faces. It's kind of an aha moment. If you're carrying around a resentment that you haven't looked at, I was telling Misty yesterday, resentment, it's not a bad deal. It's only if you let it run the show. A healthy resentment is about a good motivator. It's about helping to bring about change. I told a little story of, here's a neighborhood, and there was a house that needed painting. A couple of houses, several houses needed to be painted. So one morning the guy got up and looked out, and his neighbor was painting his house. All week he watched him paint his house. And his house looked so much better than, the guy that was watching him. And he got a resentment because the the man painted his house and made his house look worse. I mean, doesn't that sound like an alcoholic or an addict? You know, I mean, just because he fixed up his house, now my house looks worse. So what he did, he took that resentment and turned it around to some good, and he went out and bought paint and painted his house. So the neighborhood got two freshly painted houses, and it was from a resentment. So you can take a resentment and let it eat you up. Resentments is like acid. It eats up the container that holds it. And if you have unresolved resentments going into this new year, the container that holds resentments is your insides. It is your stomach. This is where ulcers are created. And, and all of those stomach problems and, arthritis, I mean, you name it, the body accommodates the mind. Now, I'm not saying every ailment that we have is caused by resentment, but it is what we carry in our bodies that we're not willing to let go of, and it comes out usually in stress-related illnesses. We break out in overeating, we break out in drinking and drugging, we break out in overspending, we break out in rage and anger, and that's not the way to win friends and influence people into going into 2026. 25, 26. I just missed 5 years. So 2026. I carried around so much unresolved rage and anger. I looked for people to cross me so I could blow up, and anyone would do. Particularly my favorite target was innocent bystanders, like people at a checkout. It got to where in Abilene, Texas, I ran out of grocery stores where I could shop. And I don't know, I was so self-centered, I thought they'd always remember, me blowing up. And of course, it'd be a huge store, but I would, something would happen, and that little checker would miss a price or something, and that would be enough to set that rage off. And I would blow up, and my little kids would be standing there. Hysterical rage would come out. And then the shame would hit me so bad that I would jerk those kids by the arms, and I would walk out of that store with 2 full baskets of groceries that I was too embarrassed to stop and get her to finish pricing them where I could take them home. That's the kind of anger and rage. I don't know if y'all ever carried that around, but when you live in dysfunction and you have been abused on a daily basis as a kid, the body keeps score, and it piles up and piles up and piles up. And there's not enough drugs, alcohol, or food that will ease that pain. After a while, that turns to pure resentment and anger and rage, or it did for me. So, relationships, that's a biggie, to be willing to let go of or clean it up. Clean it up. And it doesn't mean that everyone has to love you or even like you. People don't have to like you. Robert Kennedy gave us some really good information before he was shot and killed. One of the things he would say is, if a person dies that has at least 3 friends, 3 to 5 friends that know everything about them and love them anyway, they have died a rich person. 3 to 5 people. We don't have to have a big old crowd around us that's, worshiping us at our feet or whatever. 3 to 5 people who know everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and still love us. That's a gift. That's a gift from God. And that's what we find in 12-step programs. And I love church. I am not saying a thing about church. You don't find that in most churches. We go there to look good, and we sit by other looking good people, and we all try to be good, act good, be nice. It's what we learn in church. Be kind to one another. That's all good stuff. But we get into a 12-step program and we get down and dirty and look at the behavior that is driving us. It's not other people's behavior that drives us back to an addiction. Don't you ever blame your overeating on, well, my husband doesn't compliment me, or my kids don't ever come to see me, or you're overeating, or you're over drinking, or using drugs because you have a disease. It's a disease. It's not a character defect. It's a disease that must be treated. And if you treat it in the way that you're going to treat it, you're going to look at your behavior. And when you look at your behavior, that's what you get to clean up in those 12 steps. And then in the 9th step, you get to go make amends. And some of those amends don't actually have to be made directly, particularly if they will do harm to you or to someone else. You don't go make amends to someone if it will do more harm than good. You just get willing to. I'll give you an example, and I've talked about this, but the very first time I worked the steps, it was in Al-Anon. And it was before OA, because I lost weight, 100 pounds, several times before I ever made it to OA, and then I'd gain it back. So that particular year, I got into Al-Anon. I lost 100 pounds. I was very young. The oil business was good. My husband bought me a new white Lincoln Continental. Alcoholics love big old cars. He got me a Lincoln Continental. And then he bought me a white cashmere coat. Of course, I picked it out with a white fox collar. And with this black hair, and I was real thin, I was looking pretty good, at 20-something years old. Well, the person that was at the top of my resentment list was my ex-husband. And my sponsor was very wise, and she said, okay, well, tell me what the amends that you need to make to this man. And she reminded me, she said, you had a baby son. He deserted you and the baby. He never paid a penny. He never contacted the baby. He never, he deserted you. Now, and you were 18 years old. Now tell me what amends you needed to make. I didn't need to make amends to him. I had already found the sucker, and this is before internet, but I found him through relatives, and he was living in Oklahoma. The reason he was hiding out is because my dad tried to kill him, and he shot part of his left arm off, but anyway, while he was shooting to kill him. But anyway, that's another story for another day. But anyway, I found him, and I was going to go make amends to that.
Hold on. You can't say drop that and then just move on. Cam, look at Cam. You can't just drop that and just move on.
I'm telling you, so just wait. So I found the sucker, and I was going up there to make amends. Now, the reason I was going up there is I wanted him to open the door and see me standing there thin, because he said, I will come back if you'll lose weight. Well, hell, I was good enough for him to get me pregnant overweight, but I wasn't good enough for him to live with me, So anyway, all right, so he was going to open the door, and he was going to see me standing there in that white cashmere coat with that fox collar, and I would park that Lincoln Continental where he would see it, and he would open the door, and he would see what he had missed all those years. That's why I wanted to go see it. Look what you're missing, and he was a good-looking son of a gun. He looked like Clint Eastwood. And, there was probably a part back in the back of my mind. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was nuts. And my sponsor was very wise. She said, okay, now let's take that name, and she'd make me put the amends in columns. The columns were amends that I'd make right this moment if I saw the person. The next one was in the future, and the next one was never. that I was never willing to make amends to these people. She said, let's put that over here in this never column, because the never column is the one you start praying about. You know, if you never want to see those people again. But she said, you just keep his name, and you get willing to make amends if he's ever, but you do not go to Oklahoma. You do not. And that was such wise, because I was going. I mean, I had an aunt up there. I made up the story. I was going to go see my aunt. She was sick. She was dying. Whatever. I don't know. I lie about anything. Okay, so here we go. So that's relationships that have changed or ended. Another thing is, like I said, those people that are put in our lives are for one reason, and that is for us to learn about ourselves and for them to learn about themselves from us. And when we get those lessons learned, they'll be moved out of our lives forever. Sometimes they're put back in there, years later. Other times, the people are kept in our lives. These are some of those 3 to 5 people. Those are those basic people that are in your life forever and always. Amen. Those are the people that you can count on, and they can count on you. So another one is unrealistic expectations. Oh my gosh, we expect so much out of ourselves and out of others. So this is about get off your own back. Get off of your own back. If you didn't do all of those resolutions that you had written down in 25, tear them up, throw them away. Get off your own back. And so the big book tells us, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous tells us to keep our unrealistic expectations. That means that we make up how other people are going to treat us, and we want them to treat us. He's going to come home and he's going to bring me a rose, and he's going to come in and he's going to kiss me, and ask me how my day was, and he's going to ask me if I need any help cooking dinner, and he's going to, pet the dog and love on the kids and all of that. Well, what he would do before his recovery, he'd come in, pet the dog, speak to the kids, and sit out in front of the newspaper. And he, half the time, wouldn't speak to me. So I had unrealistic expectations. I was expecting something from a man that did not know how to love a woman. He didn't. I was his third wife. He had already struck out twice. They left him. And so he did not know how to love a woman. So when I got into recovery and I got past my own self and my own ego, way into recovery, I got to teach him how to love me. And by that time, he was a willing student. And I'll tell you, we were married 51 years, but we had 20 wonderful years. 20. Now, the first 31 were touch and go. The first 20 were not too good, and the next 10 were learning years. That last 20 were the best years of those 51. So, but we have to get out of ourselves and our own expectations and, to teach people what we need. And, it's usually, we have to teach people how to love us instead of expecting them to know. Okay. And remember that we're all fallible human beings. We're fallible. There's no God among us. I do not see Jesus. Jesus went off camera. I don't know if Brad's still here, but I don't see him. But anyway, I'm just joking with Brad. But none of us are God. We're not God. Sometimes we try to play God in our lives and other people, but we're fallible human beings. And guess what? We make mistakes. Other people make mistakes, but we're not mistakes. We're not. We are worth saving. We are. And so it is about keep that acceptance level higher than your expectations level. You know, that if you can keep your acceptance level higher than the expectations, you'll never be disappointed. Number 5, the belief that we should be further along. Oh, I mean, I should have been retired by now. I should have been married by now. I should have been divorced by now. I should have. You know, why am I not better? Blah, 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 blah. You know, I should have gone back to school. We should on ourselves a lot. Did you get it? We should on ourselves. So, just accept where you are with grace and thank God for bringing you this far. You know, because you're in a place that, or you wouldn't be here this morning, that you're open to let God speak to you. By the way, I'm not God, I'm not speaking. I'm just giving you a few words of wisdom here. Cam's laughing. Don't you think I'm God, Cam? Okay. Remember, letting go is an act of trust. Now, and it's not weakness. Now, when we let go, here is the formula for letting go. You ready? We trust God and we love people. See, we get it backwards. We just love God and we talk about how much we love God and we love Him, we worship God, we love God. And then we put our trust in people. And then they let us down. People are going to let us down. You're going to let people down. I'm going to let people down. We let each other down. But we love God. So let's switch it. It's about trusting God. Put our trust in God, and then we go love people. Just love them. And I'll tell you, the hardest ones to love are the unlovable, and they need it the most. Love the unlovable. The Bible tells us, and I'm not a Bible thumper, but I'm not preaching, but the Bible is the Holy Word. And what it says is, love is the most powerful force on the face of the earth. It's the only thing that can change an enemy to a friend. Is unconditional positive regard, is to love them. That doesn't mean that we have to stay grouped up with all, with unpleasant people. We just love them, pray for them, like Jesus did. He would stay with people and work with them and love on them and, and talk with them. And they would keep rebuking, putting him down. And finally, he would shake the dust off of his sandals, and he would turn around and he would walk away and he would let them go. But he'd already given them the message. They had the message, and he would just let them go. And we will hold on. Like I said at the beginning, we chain ourselves to conflict, to people who don't know how to love us, or people who, the ones that we give the most credit to, the most attention to, are the ones that don't like us because we're trying to make them like us. That's not our job. And then here's these people over here who love and adore us, and we think, well, we're going to get back to you later. I'm over here trying to make these people love me, and they don't. And so we got it mixed up. Love these people over here. Love everyone, but some of them we need to just kind of put up boundaries, and set a good boundary. Love them, but let them go. Trust God, love people. All right, and so what we carry, any unfinished business that we carry into the new year is quietly draining us. It's draining the energy. It's draining it's draining our creativity. It's draining everything that is God-given. When we hang on to old unfinished business, it's draining. And so if there's anything that you need to clean up, You know, those amends, maybe you have an amends list that you haven't worked on. You might want to work on that today. Pull out that amends list. Call your sponsor and talk to him or her. And see if there's some people that you need to make amends to. The best way to make amends to anyone, you mend your behavior. You quit acting the way that you acted toward them. Words don't matter a whole lot. You've said you're sorry till hell freezes over. You know, we're not sorry people. We're not bad people need to get good. We're not. We are fallible human beings dealing with other fallible human beings. And so if you have a resentment towards someone, and it will not hurt them, it will not hurt them at all, but it will eat you up alive. So, you know, look at those things that's eating on you. And because they do, they eat on us from the inside out. If you have any unresolved amends that you need to make, by the way, I want to give you, I don't know if your sponsor will tell you this or not, but in making amends, I used to have people, I don't much anymore, but you know, I used to be out in the public a lot and I worked all the time. I was involved with a lot of people for, you know, I'm not that, you know, involved, but anyway, I touched, by the grace of God, a lot of lives, good, bad, or indifferent, you know, and it would be those, you know, the bad ones that, you know, that somehow I would have hurt their sensitive feelings. And what they would do is that they, instead of coming to me about it, they'd go out and talk about me. Now then their amends would be to come to me and make amends to me for talking about me. That's not amends. Do not make that kind of amends to anyone. I didn't even know they were out talking about me. Go back and clean it up with the people that you told those stories to. Don't go and dump, you know, that I'm just so sorry I've talked about you all over Abilene. Huh? Well, thanks. Thanks for that information. Don't make that kind of amends. You know, talk that over with your sponsor and find out how you can build that person up that you've been talking about. You know, gossip, talking about people is slander. Now, I'm going to clear something up, okay? Misty, you know, is my really bestest friend, one of the best friends I've ever had. My daughters, Camps included, we are close until we're not. But, you know, we have, you know, sometimes families get, you know, kind of crossways sometimes. But nevertheless, I think I've lost my point here. But anyway, my daughters, Cam and, you know, I consider her one of my daughters. We'll get together and we'll just, you know, we'll just talk and we say what is said in this room, kind of like at 12-step meetings, what is said in this room stays in this room, you know, but the kind of business that we're in, God, we've got to have somebody to talk to, and we can't go talk to sponsors about it because it would be breaking confidentiality. But we all know everything about everybody that we're talking about, so we're not breaking anybody's confidentiality. So you have to have someone that you can, excuse my language, that you can just bitch with. Excuse my language. Share the shit with. So Misty and we just talk to each other and we talk about anybody, everybody, and it stays right here. And then we wind up every time talking about how much we love them and all of their good points.
And we pray.
And then we pray. See how good we are. I mean, we
have to talk about what we got to pray about.
Yeah, and we do. We have to talk about what we have to do, that we're going to pray about. And it's usually about, if you don't have a really good friend like Misty, start praying for one. y'all know the story. I lost the best friend, one of the best friends I'd ever had. For 20 years, we talked every morning at 5 o'clock. We had the same kind of addictions. We had the same kind of love for pretty clothes and pretty things and shopping. We were sisters. And she died. She had the nerve to leave me. See how self-centered I am. She was very sick and she died in May. 1 year later, in April, I lost my husband. I was shattered. And every day I think about those two people. Every day, every day, every day. I was lost. My kids were worried about me. I couldn't get out of bed. I was sick because I'd lost the two of the closest people that I'd ever been to that had helped me. And they were close to each other, so we just had, the three of us had a really close bond. So I started praying for a new friend, and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, and I've told this story, but if if you want a close friend or whatever you want, it doesn't mean you're going to get everything you want, but if it's within God's will, you're going to get it. That's how God operates. It's like a parent. A kid might ask at 13, he might want a motorcycle, and a parent knows that is not good for that kid. And that kid can beg for it, he can pray for it, and he's not going to get no friggin' motorcycle at age 13. You got it? God's not going to give us what is not good for us. So anyway, I was praying for a friend, and I saw this woman passing, pushing a little baby buggy, and that a top knot on her head, and it would bounce while she'd be jogging, pushing that. She had a little toddler that would run up in my circle driveway, and they'd pass the house and pass the house. And I kept watching her, and I watched her gentleness with that little one, that toddler, and how gentle she was. And I started stalking her, really. And I didn't know her. I didn't know where she lived. I didn't know nothing about her. But I was standing there at the kitchen sink one day, and it was just like God spoke to me. And he said, there she is. There is your new best friend. And so I was washing dishes or cleaning up, and I dried my hands, and I watched her when she circled back around, and then she went straight past the side of my house. And I went to the corner, and I watched her. And then I gave her time to get in the house, And then I got my golf cart, and I went down there, and I knocked on her door. She came to the door, and I said, this is so unlike me because I'm very shy. I'm a very bashful person. But I knocked on her door. She opened the door, and I said, my name's Tennie McCarty. I live in that red house on the corner, and I am your new best friend. That's how we met, and we've been best friends ever since. And she says that I knocked on her door and walked into her heart. And that afternoon, I think, we were picking out clothes for her to wear to a conference. And so we've been close friends and picking out clothes ever since. But anyway, so pray. If you want a close friend, pray for one. And God will send the right one to you. Sometimes I doubt that Misty might have got a little shortchanged. I'm about twice her age, but anyway, it evens out because she makes me feel so young. That song, You Make Me Feel So Young. Okay, let me wind this up. So ask yourself, what are you willing to lay down tonight on New Year's Eve that you don't have to drag into tomorrow? I want you to really think about it. Can you just lay it down that has quit serving you? And we don't step into the new year by holding on tighter. We step into the new year by letting go. We can hold on, like I said earlier, we chain ourselves to things, people, places, and things, while all the time we're saying, let go of me, but we're holding the key to the lock on the chain. So next week, we're going to be talking about letting go to become. So that's what I have about letting go. We have a few minutes. Who wants to share? If you have something that you want to share about that you're willing to let go of, or maybe you've let go of all of it. Karen's smiling. She's going to be willing to let go of her mother-in-law. Look at that eyebrow go up.
No comment. I played the fifth.
Now, I am fixing you. You better watch it, girlfriend, because I'm fixing you New Year's, that my usual New Year's meal. I'm fixing you black-eyed peas, cabbage, pork loin. She doesn't like cabbage and black-eyed peas. Anyway.
But by God, I eat them when you make them.
Yes, you do. You eat everything I cook. Yes, not a whole
Yes,
lot,
ma'am.
but you do it. All right.
Beggars can't be